for our patrons, men, women, boys, girls. Through the cooperation of leading business places, you may now have free admission to this theater. See your next movie completely free.
And now, on with the show.
J.J. Abrams' new film is out. It features a cast of young gentlemen and a young lady, and it is a nostalgic journey back in time.
And yet, in many ways, thoroughly modern in the way it's shot and pulled off.
It's Steven Spielberg is on as an executive producer. It definitely is evocative of his work, and it features an alien. You're right about it being modern. I mean, nothing conveys digital projection quite like Noah Emmerich's face.
And a train wreck, which happens right at the start, is definitely a product of modern CGI and visual effects, and
it is
just in terms of sheer scale.
It is overindulgent.
It's huge.
It is loud. It is.
It seemed like he was paying tribute to Saving Private Ryan in that particular moment.
I do remember that the train crash is ridiculous. It was the worst effects in the film and the best effects in the film, that sequence. There are scenes where the children are running through the wreckage as it's transpiring, and it's impossible that they aren't destroyed. It is a miracle that film doesn't feature 75 child deaths. The trains are landing on kids are being impaled, but they're not. It's just bizarre. But the basic premise of the film is that there's a very nice young little man. His mother has taken the loss in a massive way. She's fucked. Like, there's nothing left. Her necklace was the only piece of her body they could find. She was mashed away. And he's a really nice, creative young kid who, as most kids should do, learned a lot from Dick Smith's Makeup Book, which is a seminal piece of literature.
Makes movies with his friends. Including his slightly rotund dude, who is kind of the director. And these little gentlemen who live in this Ohio town that really doesn't get much play fall into the middle of a conspiracy, right? Right.
A train destroys itself. There's some precious cargo on board from Area 51.
Yep.
Something is freed, and it wants to destroy.
They witness some odd events, and they pick up some odd items, including a cube.
A cube.
And then the kid figures out the lament configuration.
Much better movie. That'd be a much better movie.
And then the town starts experiencing some very odd phenomena. John Travolta strolls in.
I wish.
Just starts pissing on things.
Turns out it's just cancer. The kids are excellent. There's a genuine sense of, like, warmth. And the characters are pretty interesting. It's pretty well done.
The kids are excellent.
Yeah, they're
absolutely excellent.
Elle Fanning's great, and the lead is good with his little sad face. And the kid who plays the director is excellent.
Yeah, and he's really the driving force of the crew in a lot of ways in terms of just the
and there's a kid who gets way too much exposure in the film who's got the ugliest mouth in film history.
Oh man, it's a shame. There are some magnetic events in the film. I was hoping he might be silenced.
Yeah. And
he was not.
I mean, obviously he was cast because he's got a very over-the-top look, but man, that's a fucked up mouth. It's going to be divisive. It's not going to be hugely successful, but I will say J.J. Abrams definitely does a good job of evoking the Spielberg vibe. I don't think he really invests a whole lot of himself into the movie necessarily. It's more modern. There's more of a horror vibe than Steven Spielberg would have done. There's a lot more lens flares than Spielberg would have done. It's a nice little curiosity of a film. It's definitely the most personal J.J. Abrams movie,
for sure,
by far.
I do think he put his passions into it in terms of, like, the stuff with the childhood. All of that rings really true to me. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of little details. For example, when he's sitting in his living room and he's got his legs just kind of stuck through the coffee table and he's, like, looking through a book.
Right.
A lot of these really genuine moments. To me, the biggest problem and the reason I'm not head over heels for it, he doesn't take all these emotional cues and stuff and really invest them in the adventure.
Right.
So there comes a point when the energy of the film takes over and that stuff just kind of has to be, like, handled really quickly.
And the whole mythology of the creature is very bizarre because there's an element of it, kind of like he's trying to have his cake and eat it too, where the creature serves a purpose. In one part of the film, it's like this, and when it serves a different purpose, it's like this. And I think it might have, you can't have it be E.T. and Cloverfield, this catch-all creature.
Yeah.
And I think the two failures of the movie, the creature itself, I don't like the design, I don't like the execution. There's nothing really original about it. And I thought that Giacchino's score It had the bombast. It just didn't have any of the memorable signature kind of elements that make a score in a movie like this so important.
It felt in place. It felt like it was from that era. It just didn't have anything to chew on. It wasn't memorable.
It was sort of like a doppelganger, but it didn't absorb the person, the emotion and the personality.
It's like you took all the in-between cues from E.T. and Close Encounters. None of the...
But overall, I mean, the movie's not bad. It's certainly not a failure.
By no means.
It's a nice little curiosity, and I think this summer, even though it does have the big moments, the train crash, and the last act of the movie is all, action and thriller type shit, compared to what Transformers is going to be bringing and the Pirate, like, this actually is a nice change up, I think. Yeah. I don't remember the name of the movie, but let's go fuck in this hotel.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Ren from Chud, of course, and I wanted, since we haven't done this for a couple of weeks, I wanted to actually take you through and mention some of the cool stuff that's happened on the site this week. First of all, big, huge news. Back to audio podcast number 77. I think it's gotten an excellent response. I'm enjoying it, and it's old school audio only. The three dudes having a blast. I know I've done some cool stuff this week. I got to talk to Brian Cox, which was very fun, very awesome. He's a wizened old man who has amazing things to say and still plenty of asses to kick. Elizabeth broke out with another High Plains Scribbler. It's amazing. You should read it. She's doing some really good stuff with that column, and the latest one is no exception. Josh continues to endure the Police Academy series for Franchise Me. I think he's at number 6 or so right now, so take a look at that. Alex is kicking all kinds of round with the video game coverage, movie coverage, everything. Big news recently is the new Nintendo Wii U. I don't really understand. I don't think anybody really understands. He did a little coverage of that, so take a look at that too. I'll put links to all this stuff up, and you should put it in your eyeballs and search around. And if you like any of this stuff, let other people know. We could always use the help. So do it. Do it now. Do it right now. Right now. Greetings.
I'm of the belief that the best shit's already happened.
You think?
We're done. We're on a downward spiral. There will never be another movie as good as Fresh Horses.
Because why not? Fresh Horses. I don't know what Fresh Horses is.
Molly Ringwald, Andrew McCarthy.
I don't know what those things are.
You don't know what? They are beings from the past.
No, I'm familiar, but I have not seen Fresh Horses.
It's dog pussy. It was made at the end of the Brat Pack era. So Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles and Tremors.
All that shit that I care about so much.
It had reached its nadir, yet they shot another film out. Fresh Horses. They were supposed to be like the more mature Brat Pack film.
Why?
And what it ended up being was just a big hammered dick.
I am awful.
You're an awful man.
Most recent film I've rewatched was Ocean's 11.
And did it hold up for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely resoundingly. There's just so many amazing things that they cram into Ocean's 11. For example, Clooney is still recruiting, and he goes to see Rusty, and he's training all these young, dumb, full-of-cum starlets. And Alyssa Milano, back in the still only charmed days, when he takes a break from the card game and is sitting at the bar having a drink, and there's Del the Funky Homo Sapien playing, and then Clooney very subtly just walks behind him, and the focus is on Rusty, and they don't acknowledge it until he goes back in the room, but just subtle, very small, detailed things like that really impressed me.
Just as an aside, Alyssa Milano was a first crush for many of folk from her work in Who's the Boss and Commando. She played She played Schwarzenegger's offspring.
She's one of those olds that started out as a young.
She's the only one. She's the only one that started young and became older.
Only one. Well, you had Kirsten Dunst. I always forget which one it was.
The Snaggletooth
Interview
with the Vampire. Yes, yeah. Kirsten Dunst. She doesn't survive that film.
No, she doesn't. She just died. She dusts off.
Alyssa Milano. Interesting anecdote. She is a huge baseball fan. She's written a book about baseball, which is great.
Really?
Yeah, she has. I think she's a Red Sox fan, which flaws it a bit. But she's also in Hall Pass for about 4 minutes. And she has gigantic breasts in it. And I don't know if that's the result of surgery, movie magic, or just a bee sting.
Yeah, maybe just a late bloomer.
What if Jessica Tandy did that? Like, she's in the hospital on life support, and all of a sudden, tits.
Just pop.
Gigantic olds.
Nobody there to appreciate them. Do you think,
speaking
going
of
back to Kirsten
lesser
Dunst's
known
interview,
things that don't get enough light shine on them. Jessica Tandy's tits. Hot wrinkles.
Anyway, all right, fine. We can go down this hole.
No, I like what you're doing.
I was just curious if you thought at the end of Interview with the Vampire if they buried the Swiffer that they cleaned up.
That they cleaned Kirsten?
Yeah. Did they bury it and give it a tombstone and everything?
I don't think so. I think, honestly, she's in a coffee can someplace. That's a good... I think it's great. I think coffee cans are a good receptacle for various items.
Yeah, for sure.
Teeth. Hair.
Feet.
Somebody's shin.
Feet. Tendons. Just a big old bucket of tendons.
Nothing like a bag of tendons in a man's day. An underappreciated movie is Deep Cover.
Deep Cover.
Directed by Bill Duke. Starring Jeff Goldblum, Larry Fishburne. I think it was the last Larry Fishburne movie. And I think other people. And Jeff Goldblum is fantastic in the movie. Like it's a Larry Fishburne movie. He's like this guy who goes undercover, blah blah blah.
Well, I mean, every movie that Larry Fishburne appears, and some in which he does not appear, are all Larry Fishburne movies.
Yeah, and you could tell they're a Larry Fishburne movie because pockmarks. But Jeff Goldblum in that movie is as over the top as Stallone could ever want to be. And there is a scene in the movie where he pushes a man out of a moving car to his doom. And his last words to the man is, "We'll have shrimp." And as they drive away, he repeats it and adds an epithet to it.
Oh, no.
It's amazing. I had the distinct pleasure of seeing Country Strong, the fabulous film starring Gwyneth Paltrow, Tim McGraw, Garrett Hedlund, a bunch of other fuckers. It was pitched to the studios as Crazy Heart with a clit, and I could see the comparisons. But it's not really Crazy Heart with a slam hole. It is not the split-tail incarnation of Jeff Bridges' film. It's a tragic story of a woman who is a superstar who is battling addiction. When the film begins, she is emerging prematurely from her rehab, where she has been working very hard with Garrett Hedlund's character, an aspiring country performer himself. She doesn't make it. She dies in the movie. So the reason I saw Country Strong was, first of all, because I'm a completist of country music movies. I've seen Crazy Heart, and I've seen Tremors. But other than that, I haven't seen any. The cool thing about this movie is that Gwyneth Paltrow dies at the end. Garrett Hedlund actually delivers a performance in this thing that is really good. If this movie had actually been seen by more than 11 rednecks, it probably would be a star-making role for him, much more so than Tron Legacy, and much more so than Death Sentence. But it's not a horrible film, it's just melodramatic. But the reason I saw it was spurred on by a perusal of the IMDb message boards for the film and for iTunes reviews by fans. And it's weird how this movie, there are so many violent defenders of it, 100% the reason being the soundtrack and the fact that it's a country music movie. It has nothing to do with cinema. It has nothing to do with the performers involved. It has to do with a very, not opinionated, but a very strong camaraderie amongst that demographic, where they will band around a project simply because country music doesn't get a lot of attention in the mainstream as far as film goes, and because they're just so passionate about it. It's kind of cool in a way, and it's also kind of scary in a way. It's amazing how it transcends the whole idea of film. It becomes more about country music. It becomes more about your... I think something just happened.